Project for today is going to be this Firestone Push Mower. It's a Mojet 18 it says on here. And it's got a Briggs and Stratton engine. It's a model 6BHS. I'm not really sure if that'd be probably like a 2.5, maybe a 3 horsepower motor. But first thing we'll do is we'll check and see if we have any spark. Then we'll look in this gas tank. This cap is, oh, I did get the cap off. It was stuck earlier. Well, it's pretty gummy and rusty inside. We'll have to get that off and clean that out. The plug doesn't look too bad. See if we can get it in a spot where we can see if we've got spark. There we go. Looks like we've got spark. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Well, that's a good sign. So we'll just have to work on the fuel side of it then, hopefully. I'll throw the spark plug back in. I'll pull this air cleaner off of it, or maybe dribble a little 2-cycle fuel down in the carburetor and see if it'll fire off for us. This is a oil bath air cleaner. You just have oil down in the bottom and then kind of an element here that you can clean out. And dribble a little fuel in here. Probably was too much. Looks like our little spring here for the throttle is not connected. So I have to get that reconnected so it actually pulls as it's holding it at idle right now. It's just supposed to hook in one of these holes on that linkage there. You can see it pulls on the spring. That's what kind of sets the throttle. We'll try that. See if it'll fire off now, if it didn't flood it already. It puffed a little bit of smoke. I'll check the plug and see if it flooded it. Yeah, it's pretty wet. I'll clean that off and we'll try it again. I'll try it once without putting any more fuel in it, but then I'll try dribbling not quite as much this next time. Yeah, I'll put a little more in there. Give it another try. Had the spark tester on. I'm gonna test spark to see. It might just be too weak a spark to make it fire. You get a spark every once in a while, but it's not super strong, so I think I'll pop the flywheel off and we'll test or clean the points and make sure that flywheel key is okay. So I'll pop this recoil off first. Oh, no mouse nest, that's a good sign. And we've got this screen and then this part comes off. Our coil looks okay. It's a little bit rusty on the magnet and stuff. We'll clean that up. That comes off. That's the recoil ratchet. It only spins one way. Our flywheel key looks okay. It's down in the groove where it should be, I think. That's okay. We'll know when we pop that off of here. The magnet looks a little bit beat up here. I've never really seen that. Looks like it's got a bunch of chunks, little tiny chunks out of it, and then here it's kind of, it might be just poor casting, but the magnet part actually shouldn't be like that. It should be smooth. We'll pop it off anyway and check out the points underneath there. I'll pop it easy. And that flywheel key looks okay. I don't think that was any of our issue. And we'll try that magnet still feels okay. I didn't know if it chunks out of it might have affected the magnetism on it or not. And we'll take this cover off for the points. You can see the points and condenser down in there. This style, you just move the condenser back and forth to set your point gap, which we might have too wide of a point gap. It looks like it might be a little bit wide. I cleaned the points out. I just used a little piece of emery cloth. I was just checking. I don't know what the actual gap is supposed to be on this, but they're usually around 17 to 20 thousandths. Seeing what making sure it's out all the way. It seems like it's a little bit big. Try to get this to stay in there while I tighten this down. think that stayed. That's not too bad. I might want to go a little bit tighter. There we go. There, now there's just a slight drag. I have 18 thousandths feeler gauge I was using. I'll throw the cover back on. Put our flywheel back on. Put the key down in there. Put a little bit of like power steering fluid on this. You want to use a fairly thin oil to lube that recoil ratchet. Just get some on my finger here and wipe it around. If you put grease or anything on there, it'll be too thick. It'll make a horrible squealing noise when it starts getting bound up on there. There's a washer down inside there. You gotta make sure it's in the right spot or it won't go back down. Oh, it spins nice now. I do make a tool that grabs onto this to tighten it, but I don't have that tool. Should be able to put our screen back on now. I normally would just try to whip it over with a drill or something at this point, but I don't have really a way to do that without the recoil on it. It's the only way I can spin it over. I'll take a wire wheel. I'll clean up that magnet too while I'm in here. Throw this recoil back on. There we go. Kind of gotta spin it to get it started on that square recoil ratchet. Now I'll check spark again. not seeing anything. Let me try the actual spark plug. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Had a really good spark now. There you can see it's got good spark now. It's nice and blue. So hopefully that was our starting issue. I drove a little more gas in there. I'll see if it goes this time. It almost went. I'm going to try firing it up one more time. It doesn't seem to want to fire on dumping gas in there, so I'm thinking we'll just get this carburetor sorted out and the fuel tank cleaned out and see if it'll run on its own. Sometimes they don't like to run when you're dumping gas in there. They're getting too much or too little and it floods it, or it's not getting enough so it doesn't want to fire all the way. So we'll start tearing that off of there. I'll pull this throttle cable off first. Looks like it's just kind of bent around here. And I'll just disconnect it down here. That off of there. And then we got that little spring in here. And once I get the bolts undone there, I can get this linkage off. Put this back in here so it doesn't get lost. I got that off of there. I'll have to take the carburetor off the tank. Hopefully that doesn't ruin that gasket I got in between there. Looks like we just got a couple of screws here. Kind of gummy, rusty. You'd think thered be one more, but I don't really see anything. Oh, yeah, it popped off of there. You can see that screen is pretty well plugged up with rust and stuff. There's corrosion there. And I got this jet here we'll pull out. It's just the choke. That still moves okay. I gotta deal with trying to clean out this tank. I think I'll try to dump out the dry rust and then run it through the parts washer. See if I can get it cleaned out. I'll pull this jet out of here too. I'll count the turns first. Looks like about 1 1/4 turn. That doesn't look too bad. Usually the upper parts of these carburetors aren't that dirty. It's more the pickup tube that gets plugged on them, the screen. And there's a jet down in there. Let's see if we can get that out. Need a smaller screwdriver. That one came loose. A little bit of junk came out. I'll clean all that out with carb clean. I don't think I really need to soak this one in the ultrasonic cleaner. It's not terrible. But I will need to try to clean that screen. I got the carburetor put back together. This screen down here was really plugged. I ended up having to soak it in the ultrasonic cleaner for a few hours to try to get that cleared out. Even blowing air and stuff through there, I couldn't get anything to come through. Carb clean wouldn't go through. So we'll throw that back on the tank here. The gasket ended up staying okay. The tank didn't get super clean, but this isn't something I'm going to run a lot. So I'm not too worried about it. You can see the tank still, it's pitted pretty bad, but for the most part the actual rust and tarnish, all the big chunks are out of it, and all that fine, it was almost like sand in there, and that came out. Now we'll get it put back on there and see if it'll fire up. Get our linkage back through here, like that. Oh, I guess it goes on the other side of that throttle. I have to take it out of here. That's how we took it out of there, I guess. Put it in the arm on the engine last. Hook up the spring. I should be able to put those bolts in. I should just have the throttle cable left. I think that was kind of up through the bottom. That. That part there looks kind of homemade. I'll bend this around a little bit again. I think we're ready to put some gas in it and see if it'll fire. I put it back down on the ground. We'll see if it'll fire up for us. It's got a little flap here that hits the spark plug to shut it off, so I grab my plastic pliers we can do that with so we don't get shocked. We'll see if it'll fire up. Not really a good way to pull this thing. You don't want to get your feet under it either. It fired once. I think I need to put some lube on that recoil. I put some lube in that recoil so it's a little less noisy. It's almost going. I'm gonna try it again. I put some gloves on. It's starting to hurt my fingers on this cord. Getting closer. So my shoulders were getting sore from pulling the thing, so I rigged up a drill on here. A 15/16 socket worked on here, so we'll see if we'll start now. Almost. That Mower drill wasn't powerful enough to turn this over, so I had to switch to the corded Milwaukee. Let's see what this will do. This almost goes too fast. It kicks out that sprocket. There's a ratchet. So this ratcheting mechanism was sticking on me and it was kicking out. So this is the inside part here. It's got a little hook here that grabs those ball bearings and will wedge up against the side, and that's what keeps it engaged. And then when it starts, these ball bearings fling out to the side, and then it doesn't hook on there anymore. So to get that out, I just had there's that plate in there, and then there's a little ring on top of it that holds in a groove to hold it in. So any little bit of grease or anything down in here can hang these ball bearings up and make it so it won't catch. So I'm gonna clean this out. There's some old grease and stuff in there, and then we'll see if it works better. So I took the Dremel and I kind of ground the edge of this here too, because it was kind of rounded off. So that'll also, where the ball kind of grabs, like that. If I can get it to sit there. Kind of sits like that. So then if it's rounded off, the ball will slip up and over. So I'm hoping that'll hold a little bit better now. I'll get it thrown back together and we'll give it a try. So here's a good shot of how this works. Comes around like that and it locks the ball bearing in. And then as the engine spinning underneath it, it's just doing this, and then the ball bearings are flung out to the side. So it depends on where you're at, it'll just grab one or the other. The more modern ones had a hook for each one of the ball bearings, so you had more of a chance it wouldn't skip over like that. So it looks like we got two of them that grab really well, and then the ones over here, that one doesn't grab the best. Kind of pops up out of there, but it's better than it was. So we'll see if that works. Well, I put the recoil back on and I put it up on the lift here so it's a little easier of a pull. I did dribble a little bit of gas in the carburetor. We'll see if that helps anything. Fired. So I'm going to do a leak down test because I'm guessing that we have a valve that's leaking is our problem. So this basically just pressurizes the cylinder. You don't want it to turn over though, is the deal. So we'll have to get it back to top dead center and try to hold that. Right there, feels like top dead center. We're leaking mostly, I'm feeling the breather underneath here, we're leaking mostly through the rings. There's a tiny bit coming out of the exhaust. This thing might just be too wore out to actually run. We'll do a compression test and see what we got going on for compression, but it's not looking good. I got the compression tester hooked up. We'll see what it does. Looks like we're just below 90. Which still should be enough that it should do something. So I'm not sure what we got going on. We'll give it a try a couple more times and see what happens. And we'll give it another try. That's the most life we've had out of it. I think we might have flooded it now. I'll pull the plug out and dry it off again. I dried the plug off, we'll try it again. Well, we finally got her to go. I think I'm gonna put some fresh oil in there, and then we'll put the air cleaner back on, see if we can get it going again to go outside and test it out. Now what I did on that last try is I pulled the plug out and heated it up with the torch. Sometimes once you get the plug hot like that, you can get it to ignite better on a hard to start engine like that. That's like a lot of times when they're warmed up, how they start easier. So that seemed to do the trick. Well, get that stuff put back on there and we'll go test it out. Well, I heated up the spark plug again. Give it a little shot of carb clean in there. Let's see if we can get it to go now. Well, it runs pretty good once you get it started, but I don't know why it's such a hard starting thing, but it's going to be more of a display anyway. It's just I won't be actually using this, but here's the tag on the deck again, if you were wondering. I couldn't find too much information on the actual push mower being a Firestone, but I did find a little bit of information on the actual engine. So this Briggs & Stratton on here is a 6BHS, which was made from 1953 to 1958. And from what I could figure out with the serial number, it looked like this was a 1955. But as far as the Firestone mower, it must be a 55 because it had his original engine. But I found it's made by Cooper, was a Cyclone or a Cyclovac 20-inch model, which I think this one is actually 18 inches, being it has the Mojet 18 on there. I didn't measure it. I guess it could be 20 inches, but yeah, that's about all the information I could find on that. And it looks like it's around 1955, which kind of looks like it. It's kind of that space age design type stuff. But if any of you know anything else about this, it'd be interesting to hear in the comments. I haven't been able to find too much information on them. I know Firestone made riding mowers too. I saw a few pictures of them when I was researching it. But that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.